Pretzels are easily one of my favorite summertime snack foods. They're salty, soft, and have an unbeatable crust loaded with caramelized, delicious flavors. Authentic pretzels are one of the most dangerous recipes you can make at home, so today I want to show you how to achieve that classic pretzel look with a much safer method. Let's start things off by combining 260 grams of water with 20 grams of sugar and 7 grams of yeast. Fork all that together and let it bloom. I like to use a relatively low hydration for my pretzels because you need to be able to roll them out on an unfloured work surface. I suggest somewhere between 55 and 60% hydration. This yeast bloomed super weird. Maybe I didn't mix it all the way, but it's definitely still alive. Now add 500 grams of flour to a bowl, followed by 8 grams of salt. Pour in the yeast and water mixture and combine everything with a fork. Once combined, add 20 grams of neutral oil or butter. Mix it in, then knead on the counter for 15 minutes or until the gluten is fully developed. This is a low hydration dough, fortified with fat. Both factors inherently making gluten development significantly more difficult. If you want fluffy, soft, airy crumb structure, put some elbow grease into it, you won't regret it. After kneading thoroughly, ferment covered on the counter for 1 hour. It should roughly double in size. Punch down the dough and separate into 6 even pieces. Then shape each piece roughly into a log. Doing this now will make the final shape a lot easier later. Once they're all done, cover them for one last ferment. I didn't have enough room for all of them under my bowl, so I'll cover these last 2 with some glass bread loaves. Let those hang out for another half hour to ferment before shaping. Look how much more the ones covered by the bowl rose. I guess yeast doesn't like to ferment sugars when it's exposed to light like this. If someone could let me know in the comments why only the ones under the bowl rose, I'm curious as to why it behaves this way. That's fine though, since these had enough time for our gluten to relax nicely. To shape the pretzels, start from the middle and roll out in both directions simultaneously. Pop any big bubbles in the dough. I like to leave a bigger chunk in the middle so that there's a nice textural contrast between the crispy ends and the main body of the pretzel. Once they're rolled out about 20 inches, grab both ends and loop them around each other twice. Then press each end into the side of the pretzel. Be thorough here, as they can fall apart later. Quick tip, roll these out longer than you initially think because the gluten will spring them back a bit. That happened with mine, but they still turned out amazing. Let these proof in the fridge until you're ready to bake. Pretzels are so dangerous to make because before baking, they're dipped in a solution of sodium hydroxide, the main ingredient in drain cleaner. Even though this stuff does make for some amazing pretzels, most people at home don't want to risk actual chemical burns for very marginally better results. The sodium hydroxide bath used for pretzels has a pH of nearly 14, whereas a quarter cup of baking soda dissolved in 1 liter of water has a pH of only 8.5. Since the pH scale is logarithmic, the sodium hydroxide solution is roughly 316,000 times stronger than the baking soda, which is a huge difference, obviously. For my testing, baking soda isn't powerful enough to emulate the flavor and color provided by the lye bath. For that reason, I'm going to reach for this baked baking soda I showed you how to make in my ramen video. I also posted a short showing you how to make it at home if you don't want to watch that whole video. You may also be able to find it pre-made at your local ethnic grocery store if you don't want to make it at home. Now that the pretzels are ready, dissolve 45 grams of sodium carbonate into 1.5 liters of warm water. Heat that solution up on the stove. Once the mixture reaches 80 degrees Celsius or 176 Fahrenheit, dip each pretzel for 10 to 15 seconds. Be sure to use caution here, as although the solution is between 100 and 1,000 times weaker than sodium hydroxide, even though it's much weaker, it is still hot, and prolonged exposure may still cause skin irritation or mild damage. If exposure does occur, ensure safety by washing the affected area with cold water. Please don't let this deter you from trying this recipe though. I've done this many times, and I've never had a single problem. This is far less dangerous than many other cooking techniques anyway. I'm also conducting a mini experiment here where I'm dipping 3 pretzels in a second plain water bath. I'm not sure how this will turn out, but we'll find out together. Once all these pretzels are dipped, slice across the bottom middle to help with rising in the oven. Then generously salt with any coarse salt you like. Use more salt than you think here, because these will puff up a lot in the oven, and I accounted for this extra salt in the dough recipe anyway. Now let's bake these in the oven at 220 Celsius or 425 Fahrenheit for 15 to 18 minutes. Check out these results. The color on the double dipped pretzels is much lighter than the single dip. They'll probably get nicer color with a longer bake time, but with that, you risk overcooking the pretzel. For my pretzels, I like a pillowy interior with a nice, crispy exterior, which the single dip provides. So I think the single dip method is better. Why put extra work in for no better result anyway? I also personally prefer the taste of the pretzels that were only dipped once. They not only have that authentic pretzel look, but they also taste practically identical to the pretzels you can pick up at a mall pretzel shop or at a baseball game. I hope you try out this pretzel recipe, and if you do, let me know how it turns out in the comments section below. I hope you enjoy this video. If you found it informative or helpful, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos weekly. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.